right. We are live. All right, guys. I don't think anyone's in yet. I'll give it a few seconds. But basically today I'm going to be going over some Raiders talk, the additions of Randall, the free safety, previously of the Cleveland Browns and Green Bay Packers, former first-round pick at Arizona State. Kind of relate how that impact, touch on a little bit of Eli Apple and the impact of that, of him apparently not coming to the Las Vegas Raiders anymore. And then get into some draft talk, kind of go over my Twitter feed. I made a account on the share screen right here, just kind of highlighting some stats and thoughts from the wide receiver corner draft class up ahead. And then hopefully wrap it up with some live comments when people start joining in. So I'm trying to set up my phone to see all the comments from people join. All right. And we're off. So let's just start kind of getting into it. So we will start talking about Randall, the addition of Damarious Randall. So Damarious Randall, as I mentioned, former first-round pick from the Green Bay Packers, corner out of Arizona State. Played, I believe, his first 2 or 3 years there, and then his last couple he has played with the Cleveland Browns. Transitioned to free safety, lines up in the nickel, a little bit at corner still, outside corner, but lines up in the nickel and free safety. Has some versatility, playing strong as well as free. And, once Eli Apple fell through, we were kind of, when it was a reported deal, we were kind of strapped for cash. And more recently, we restructured Rodney Hudson to give us some more flexibility, which is nice. But we were stressed, and I knew that Randall was someone that, Twitter fans and me included kind of thought could be an addition. Now, he doesn't necessarily make them stay away from safety in the draft, in my opinion. But I think, the addition of him makes it less of a need. Ideally, I believe you're going to start him at free safety, Abrams at strong safety. Randall has had, good performances in coverage in the past. Didn't have any picks this year, but as you see from this tweet from Mr. Monton here, Damarious Randall has spent time in the slot, the box, center field. Most importantly, he tracks the ball, and he has at least 3 interceptions in 4 of his last 5 years. So he didn't have any this year, as I said. And I think he only played 11 games due to injury. And the Raiders only had 9 picks in 2019. So that gives you a little thing. And then another tweet here. New Raiders safety was a 2015 first-round pick at Arizona State, as I mentioned. The five-year pro spent 3 years with the Packers and his last 2 with the Browns, 14 interceptions in 65 career games. So that's pretty good. And, 3 interceptions in 4 out of his 5 years, that is pretty good production. So from the Raiders' perspective, he definitely adds some depth. Probably, put him in as starting free safety. He could play some, cover 3, play that center field in that role. Can man the middle and maybe some cover 1. And like I said, some flexibility in the slot. As we know, Joyner struggled a bit last year. So I'm really happy with that signing. And maybe the Eli Apple deal that apparently fell through due to, physical problems is what I've seen last on Twitter. We were able to get Randall in here and at a really reasonable deal, I believe about $3 or $4 million, if I'm not mistaken. So about half the price of what Eli Apple was going to fetch. And then, as I mentioned, apparently Rodney Hudson restructured his contract, opening up some more cap. So the Raiders, I know they brought back Jordan Devy as of recently too. He played, I believe, the first 3 games before suffering a torn pec muscle. So bringing in the depth to alleviate some major necessarily draft needs for sure. So with Debbie coming back, it doesn't mean necessarily we have to take a guard. I still think there's a good chance we do take a guard. And then with Randall, I still think there's a decent chance we could take a safety, but it doesn't, with his addition, it doesn't pigeonhole us into needing one to take one in the first 3 rounds necessarily. So, I look at this to be a good sign, that the Raiders are able to bring back some players that can alleviate the big needs on draft day. And then we'll move on here. And this is just pulled from my Twitter feed, and I just made a document, and then so you guys could read with me. And Jim Nagy, he runs the Senior Bowl. I believe he's done it for a year or 2 now. Former scout executive, real good experience, real good people person, does a great job of getting a great variety of talent, even small schools guys like Kyle Duggar, more recently this year. But someone, if you guys have been, watching my previous videos, I'm really high on is a Van Jefferson out of Florida. His dad is a wide receivers coach in the NFL, has been in the wide receivers coach in the NFL for some years now. I believe he is currently with the Jets, if I'm not mistaken. And at Florida, they didn't have the best, accuracy at quarterback, most prolific throwing game, but a really, really good route runner. And you saw that on full display during the Senior Bowl. Was turning people around left and right. And then even more this past year, a real big game that came down to the wire was Florida versus LSU. And multiple times you see Van Jefferson beating players, making tough catches, setting them up, complete routes in the red zone, getting hit, finishing the process. So I see him, for example, if the Raiders stayed away from a Jerry Jeudy, passed on a Jerry Jeudy, if Jerry Jeudy was gone in the first round, if you want a poor man's kind of Jerry Jeudy, just that really, really good route runner, it's Van Jefferson. And as Jim Nagy, kind of recruited and brought him in for the Senior Bowl, you see a tweet here. Florida wide receiver Van Jefferson couldn't run at the 40 at the combine, foot injury. Excuse me. But Zebra technology, so like a GPS tracking, of in-game performance, had him as the fastest player at the Senior Bowl with a max speed of 21 miles per hour. That's not even in-game. Well, I guess that could have been in-game. Maybe I better clarify. It's a Senior Bowl, could have been practice or in the game. But at 21.05, that's with pads, with helmet, at least minimum practice, which is faster than Devin Duvernay, who is a track star, University of Texas, and Denzel Mims, who blew up the combine more recently. And then Gibson, the weapon out of Memphis, if I'm not mistaken. So that's just really impressive. As you can see, they're 40, 4.39, 4.38, 4.39. So maybe a Van Jefferson who wasn't expected to blaze in the 40, just really, really carries pads well and is just used to wearing pads more than the others. That's really impressive. A full mile per hour, faster almost than Gibson, and then just a little bit faster than Duvernay and Mims, who are movers, burners. As you can see, 4.39 and 4.38 in the 40 at the combine, respectively. So here's some more on Van Jefferson, and this is you can find all these on Twitter if you just search these handles, Jim Nagy, if you want to see. Some of these have video clips and whatnot and highlights. I just don't know about having those up, if that's frowned upon or not. So I just kind of made this and cut them out. And but look them up on Twitter. I believe these are all public accounts. So more on Van Jefferson. As I mentioned, had a really good against LSU. You can look that up on YouTube, condensed, and you can see that game this past year. But really kept them in that game. Dad's a wide receiver coach, so more on him. Detailed route runners from Matt Bowen, sets up DBs and man coverage, so he has a plan. Short area, speed to separate. As I mentioned, he's got apparent long speed potentially here, 21 miles per hour at the Senior Bowl. Slot ability in the NFL, 6'1", 200 pounds, so he's got a little bit of size to him. So, he's probably lives and breathes football, I would assume, knows what it takes, what he's getting into, from his father growing up in the game. So just someone I'm really high on. So as I mentioned, especially for the Raiders, if, they go with for example, a Henry Ruggs at number 12 because Judy's gone, or just because they go with Ruggs instead, a Van Jefferson would be an awesome compliment. In my opinion, a really good route runner that should be ready for the NFL game. And, have great mental processing, which is evident on the field, coming from his, father being a wide receiver coach makes sense. So check him out, Van Jefferson, really high on him. Injury that kept him out of the combine, but really good, underrated player. And I believe you can go to SeniorBowl.com and see cut-ups, if I'm not mistaken, too. If not, the whole game on YouTube. So moving on, another big guy that I really like, that I saw a lot of, is one Daniel. Oh, excuse me, not Daniel, Jeremiah. Goodness, he's a commentator. Is Michael Pittman, from USC. Big frame receiver, possession. Really showed some long speed at the combine with a 4.52 40, right around CD Lamb. So that's pretty good, especially for a man that measured in at 6'4", 223. And a good little fun fact about him is his dad is former Pittman running back on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for one John Gruden. So I could see the big connection there. He would be another guy. I predict that he'd probably go in the second round, maybe late one, but it's a deep wide receiver class, so it is possible maybe he makes it to the third. So he'd be a nice guy to pair with, a Jerry Jeudy, because Jerry Jeudy isn't necessarily the biggest, so you get a big guy to pair with him of pretty much equal speed, which is nice, a big frame, or even with a Henry Ruggs to have a big possession receiver, paired with a Henry Ruggs. So I think realistically it would have to be a trade back to get him at 2, or package 2 3s to get him in the second round. But he basically, you can watch on YouTube again, his highlights or the complete game against Utah, who was a really good defense this past year, was in the Pac-12 championship. Tons of NFL prospects everywhere. He single-handedly almost beat them, I believe, with a third-string quarterback or backup at minimum, if I'm not mistaken. And, similar to Van Jefferson, his dad, grew up in football, knew football, so he should know what it takes, know what to expect, should be really good. And you can see here against Utah from Matt Bowen, you can look it up. I believe there's a clip down below of it, a video. You guys should check it out when you get a chance. 10 receptions, 232 yards and a tug, 4 receptions of 25-plus yards, quick game speed out, slant hitch, works back to the ball, curl routes, verticals from the slot. A big guy, and at 4.52, that is plenty fast enough. As I said, that's up there with the CD Lamb. So, real good prospect that I've talked about in previous videos. So keep your eye on him, check him out. As I mentioned, his dad played for John Gruden previously. And like I said, these are just some highlights from my Twitter feed that I just kind of took off and put them in a doc. So, now we will move in. Okay. I don't know if this is good enough. Oh, wow. I don't know if I can zoom in here. See if I can zoom in 1 second on this. Dang, you can't read this. Okay, well, you can check this out. Like I said, this is all on Twitter. Check out Austin Gale, former San Diego State alumni. That's where I graduated from, too. So represent Aztecs. You can find it on Twitter. So it's basically, I'm sure you can read this font. I could blow it up one more time. 1 second, guys. Boom, this should be a little bit bigger. So as we're going here, hello, JB. Nice to see you, man. Cool, I missed it. Sorry, I missed this. Oh, yeah, no worries. Yeah, just kind of going over some stuff. Good to see you. JB, sorry about the other day when we were doing the mock draft late. I thought you left. We had a little delay on the comments. But good to see you again. Oh, man, it says from Zenny. That's kind of weird. I don't know if I like that. This is Mason Riggs, obviously you can tell, using StreamYard. So anyways, I'll blow this up for you guys. You can see from Austin Gale. You check it on his Twitter feed. This is percent of targets by route over the last 2 seasons from the top receivers in the 2020 NFL draft. Now, a little disclaimer, Pro Football Focus is not perfect. Just the other day, they tweeted out, Pro Football Focus NFL Draft from the Twitter account that CeeDee Lamb has never had a drop in his years over 25 plus yards. And I retweeted, that he had a big drop in a blowout game, but a drop of about a 70-yard touchdown off his hands in the playoff game against LSU. And so, they're not perfect out there, I would say, but they're they're a great resource. So out here, percent. So what you want is diversity in this chart, I would say. So over the last couple years, the top, quote unquote, top NFL draft target at receiver, you want diversity of routes one and target. So Brandon Ayuk from Arizona State, great long arms, great after the catch, probably be, a late one. Daniel Jeremiah loves him. I think he's 24th ranked player around there. Early two type of player. But as I mentioned, so many receivers in this class, some will fall. How do I get the comments? Anyways, I don't know why the comments aren't working, guys. 1 second. Trying to get the comments to come up on my sorry guys, hold on. For some reason I can't get the comments. It's hard to get the comments on here and read them. Can't get them showing up on my phone when you're bringing them in for some reason. Have to work on that. But you should see some diversity. So Brandon Ayuk at Arizona State, as I said, great after the catch. 30% of his target share over the past 2 years come from screen routes. So obviously, 30% is a huge chunk, and then 17% on a go route. So, straight line down the field, streak routes. So not a whole lot of diversity. As you can see, 47%, according to Pro Football Focus, of his routes come from two routes. And arguably, you can't be running screens 30%. That is just mind-blowing to me. And then, so that's, a little red flaggy to me. His route tree, by target isn't very diverse. So maybe he's not getting open. That means a couple things potentially. You do have to watch them all. But what it could mean is maybe he's not running those routes a lot, because that doesn't mean he's not running these routes a lot. He's probably not, but that doesn't mean that from the stat. What it means, though, is when he's targeted, he's only running these routes. So then Denzel Mims, for example, he has 25% as a go route. So if you want to, down the field target, obviously he's done that a lot targeted in that area. And then 20% on a hitch route. So that's, pushing your stem up into the DB, having him bail back in on his back of his heels, and then, coming back to the quarterback, turning around and coming back to the football and working back. And then you could see 11% slant route, 5% crossing, 9 at post, 7 on an out route. So still, 45% of his target share came on two routes. So, once again, not a whole lot of diversity. But if you're looking for, a deep threat, he does that very well. And if you compare it to Brandon Ayuk, he's done it at almost at 8% more per target. And then a Jerry Jeudy, who's widely regarded as maybe the best route runner in the NFL draft, plays a lot out of the slot from the University of Alabama. I think he's an excellent option at number 12 for the Las Vegas Raiders, 11 at the Jets, 9 to the Jaguars potentially, the Niners at 13. Broncos, I don't see him getting past 15 if somehow he gets there. But as you can see here, a lot more diversity here. Out route, 18.66%. So, as compared to Denzel Mims and Ayuk, their highest was 30 and 25. 18 is significantly less. And then his next would be a screen at 14%. So, shows that he's a good playmaker after the catch, potentially, which we know from the film. He's got that great hezzy, that high step. And then the next would be a slant route at 12, and then a go route at 11, and then a hitch route at 9, and then almost 7.5% of post route. So a lot of diversity per target. That's really good. That's what you want to see. And then a T. Higgins from University of Clemson, their all-time reception touchdown leader. I'm a big believer on him, taking a lot of heat about not participating in the combine and maybe not having the greatest long speed. All I say is he's done it for a couple years now in the biggest games. look back to this past year against Ohio State in the game he got hurt. Started the game off with a 20-yard post route, lined up man-to-man on Okudah. Then in that same drive should have about a 40-yard jump ball up the sideline, streak route on a free play. Defense, jumped off sides or lined up off sides, and the ball was just slightly thrown out, out too much to the sideline. He came down with it, but the ball drifted him a little bit out of bounds. So he should have started the game on Okudah, 2 catches for 60 yards. He gets hurt on that play. He comes back, after halftime. I believe he drops his first target off a hitch. A little bit of a concern, not really to me. He's just banged up. Whatever, it happens. Move on. I believe his next target, they're backed up in the up against their own goal line. What do they do? Okudah's lined up, man to man against them. He's respecting him by playing about 5-yard cushion right off the line. They just throw him a screen. He gets about 5 yards, except he falls forward because he's 6'4", and he winds up with about 8 yards. So right off the get-go, creates a great amount of, distance, cushion for their offense, to start the drive, get them, not so pinned up against their own goal line. And then later in the game, Okudah gets them too as well because, Okudah, top 7 pick lock, most people would say, consensus top corner. But late in the game, they need a 2-point conversion, and during a scramble drill, Higgins beat Okudah again. So, I'm a believer in T. Higgins. And then from distribution, again, 25% go route, so real vertical threat, real effective at stacking, on the corner, strong hands, looks like a basketball player out there, some similarities to A.J. Green. Obviously not the same burner, but, the hands, the length, out route, 19%. So, once again, 41% on 2 routes, so not a whole lot of diversity. But, 9% on a slant route using that big body and 11% on his hitch route. So you can see from, his target shares, he's used as, the big play guy and the middle of the field, possession type of route, uses body frame. Next up on the list, we have Laviska Shenault. He's been hurt. His biggest red flag is just being hurt in college and not, getting hurt, in the combine and, stuff like that. He's been hurt throughout his career. But you want to talk about a gadget machine. He is like a big Cordell Patterson with better hands. Needs to improve a lot in route running, but just get him the ball, get him in space, similar I could see to how Deebo Samuel was used for the Niners. I could see a Laviska being used, use him on crossing routes, jet sweep, screens. You can use him in Wildcat. He lined up as a Wildcat quarterback a ton at Colorado. Return game, he is very effective potentially. So if you look at his distribution according to Pro Football Focus, a little bit more diversity to the other, limited, not as diversity as Jerry Jeudy. 19% of his routes on a hitch route, so using that big body, which is nice. 14 on a screen, which, you want to get him the ball. He's a playmaker, so you see that. And it's not as high as an Ayuk, which is nice. It's almost identical to Jerry Jeudy, as you see according to Pro Football Focus over the last 2 years per target, which is key. Not all routes run, but just per target he was targeted on. 12 on go routes, 11 on out routes, and then some diversity, 7 on a crossing route, which is higher than any of the previous guys. So using that big body, using that speed, using him to run away from defenders. As I said, the big red flag for him is, not a polished route runner and his injury concern. Moving on, we got Jalen Reagor, who I love as a football player. I know a lot of people say Ruggs, the comp to Tyreek Hill. I think maybe the closest comp might be Jalen Reagor. He's been making plays since freshman year at TCU. Erratic quarterback play, but runs a great slow-go route. Underrated route runner, in my opinion. Has a little bit of drop issues, but, at the combine, he bulked up to 208 pounds. I think he was listed at 190 in college, and he ran I want to say a high 4.40. And a lot of people predicted, that he might fall behind Ruggs, in the 40, but they expected him to be a blazer and possibly break 4.3, be under 4.3, and we didn't see that. because he put on that extra weight, but you did still see the explosion lower body, I believe like 40+ inch vertical, if I'm not mistaken. And as I said, just erratic play in college, but been making plays since his freshman year. And so if you look at his route distribution, 16% go route, so using that speed, 14% screen, so getting the ball playmaker, and then a post route, so stretching, working off that go route and then hitting that middle of the field, 9% on an in route, so running away from more people more or less. And then slant, using that quick feet, and then hitch route 13. So really quite a bit of diversity. And like I said, a mean sluggo route, which is a fake slant, and, a little bit fake post, and then up the field, double move. I love that. Then, as I mentioned earlier, Michael Pittman from USC, big receivers, 6'4". His dad played for the Raiders. I mean, not the Raiders, excuse me, but John Gruden in Tampa Bay, running back. So knows what the NFL game is about. 20% go route, so use that big frame, stretch the field. 15 on an out route, which requires a big throw. 13 on screen, getting the ball. 14 on hitch, use that big frame. 7 and 7, no whip routes, which is similar to Jalen Reagor. So some diversity there. Proven that he is used as a vertical playmaker. In that USC offense, as I said, with that 6'4" frame, 4.5 speed. Project that in the pros and project him, to run those hitch routes, those slant routes, those posts, those ins, those outs, and use his big frame. And then maybe someone that isn't getting a whole lot of love, Justin Jefferson. I'm pretty sure he had 18 touchdowns this year and shows some really good route distribution here by target. As you can see, his highest is only 15%. Even, Reagor was 16, which is nice. And then Jerry Jeudy, which is 18.6, which is nice. And what that is showing is that means, he's not a one-trick pony by target. 15 on a go route, so mostly used to stretch the field by target share. 14 on an out route, which is nice. 12 on a slant. 10 on a crossing. So just really diverse. 7.3 on hitch. 7.76 on screen. As I said, you can find this on Twitter, Austin Gale. This is from Pro Football Focus Stats. They posted this. And then moving up, another popular option for the Raiders at the 12th pick is one CeeDee Lamb from the University of Oklahoma. And some of my concerns is a lack of diversity in route running as well in that Oklahoma offense. Not a whole bunch of diversity. As you can see here by target share, 35% of his targets are on two routes, a go route and a hitch route. Now, that doesn't mean all bad. Definitely doesn't. But they are, lacking some route distribution out there. But a whole bunch of 9%, which is actually good to see. 9 on slant, 9 on crossing, 9 on screen. And then maybe the surprising thing to most people, someone that has, the least amount of targets out of all these players, I believe, in their career, would be a Henry Ruggs, but a big play. 25% of his plays, he scored a touchdown. I believe 100 career catches or carries, targets, whatever. Basically, the ball in his hands, 25 touchdowns. And that's where that number comes from. And the diversity here, this is by target. So that means, by a route run, he has diversity, per target, which is really shows a diverse route runner here. As you can see, his highest is only at 13%, which is going to be the lowest of any other player. Not only that, he's got 13, that's a slant route, 13 as a screen, 11 as a go route, and then another 10% as in routes. That's great. That's almost 4 routes equally being targeted, and then 8. So just a real diverse route runner by target share. So that might be surprising to people, but as I mentioned before, Henry Ruggs, an underrated route runner, not a one-trick pony. So that's out there. JB says, if I was the Raiders fan, my dream draft would be Jerry Jeudy, CJ Henderson, Jalen Hurts, and Chase Claypool. Yeah, that would be nice, definitely. Maybe instead of Claypool, I might go Edwards from South Carolina. But, yeah, he's a beast. But as I mentioned, a Ruggs fan Jefferson pairing, I'd be happy. Jalen Hurts, I just don't think is going to be around in the 3rd round. And I think the Mariota signing almost in a way signals that they're not going to invest a high draft pick in quarterback, or they're not expecting one to be in their range. whether it's in the third round or not, they're not going to take Jalen Hurts at 19, in my opinion. At least I hope not, please. I think he belongs in the second round. I think a sweet spot for him would be Pittsburgh, I believe at like pick 45 or 50 or something like that. Their first pick in the draft, JB. But yeah, I wouldn't be complaining too much if I saw that. I love Jerry Jeudy. I love CJ Henderson. But as I mentioned, I probably wouldn't, go with Hurts just because of our roster breakdown, and he probably won't be there. And then Claypool, I do like a lot, but I personally am a little higher on an Edwards from South Carolina or a Van Jefferson, more of a proven route runner, Van Jefferson, than a Claypool. But Claypool is a mauler in the run game and blew up the combine, that's for sure. And he suffered from erratic quarterback play as well at, the University of Notre Dame. All right, so we'll keep going here. Some more tweets. So this happened March 24th. So this is after the Arizona Cardinals not selected, but traded for DeAndre Hopkins. So that kind of, in my opinion, maybe probably takes them off of, out of the running for a wide receiver in the first round. I'd be kind of surprised if they did that. They took Hakeem Butler and Keyshawn Johnson and Isabella last year in the draft. So, and then trading, a second for DeAndre Hopkins, that would be a lot of capital to invest in the first round, even though it's an air raid offense where they use receivers more than anybody. So a little interesting snippet there that Daniel Jeremiah said, I wouldn't be shocked at all if Henry Ruggs ends up being the first wide receiver drafted. Vic Tafur, who obviously covers the Raiders, said the same. So obviously the Raiders are one of the prime wide receiver, clear needy teams at the top of the draft. As I said before, the Jaguars could be an option for one of those two, a Ruggs, a Lamb, or a Jeudy. Same with the New York Jets, who are pick 11, one pick ahead of the Raiders. And then obviously the Raiders would be interested, the Niners at 13, and then at 15, the Broncos. So Daniel Jeremiah is a real respected guy, connected to Mike Mayock, knows how Mike Mayock thinks. As I mentioned, the Raiders might be one of the first clear wide receiver needy teams. And then Vic Tafur, who covers the Raiders. So there might be a little foreshadowing there that they would not be surprised, if Henry Ruggs ended up being a Raider and, going to this route distribution chart. He's not a one-trick pony out there, which is nice to see. And then, what he requires, what Henry Ruggs does, is he kind of makes the defense a little bit predictable, as in if you don't have a gazelle out there or an elite press man corner, you can't play him one-on-one. You have to have a second defender dedicated over the top. Or if you're going to play him one-on-one, you're going to have to play off because you don't want to get beat deep for a touchdown. And as I keep mentioning, he can take a slant and take it 80, 75 yards, split the safeties, and take it to the house. Look up the game this past year against South Carolina. He does it. That's just one example. So what he does is, he makes the defense have to play a certain way and almost in a predictable way. And if not, you can burn them. And, as I mentioned, this route distribution should be encouraging for in case if he is a wide receiver one taken, that his target share, it's diverse. And then, I believe 5 career drops in his career, if I'm not mistaken, and it's proven, his catch to touchdown ratio, he's a big play waiting to happen. So if John Ross, where did John Ross go? I'm gonna look it up. John Ross draft. John Ross, who broke the 40 time. And if you look at the technique of, you look back, cue up Henry Ruggs' 40 time, there's a simulcam broadcast between him and Ross. If Henry Ruggs is leaning forward and has his hands, straight out instead of fist, more aerodynamic and forward leaning, I think he might beat Ross still. And he still thought, he should have done better. Yeah, John Ross went pick 9. Henry Ruggs is a lot more proven route runner, better natural pass catcher, better in his run blocker, better effort overall, more proven. And if John Ross can go number 9, you better believe Henry Ruggs can go 11 or 12. And then coincidentally, I believe the number 9th pick is Jacksonville Jaguars this year. And so moving on, as I said, we're just kind of going over some wide receiver stuff. Michael Pittman Jr. I think I kind of talked about that already. We did the breakdown. So yeah, Michael Pittman Jr. just a beast. You can look that up on YouTube. Single-handedly beat Utah, who've got defensive prospects everywhere. Anai, safety Burgess, corner Johnson. They got guys everywhere. As you can see, this is on Twitter, so you can look all these up. Dan Brugler wrote, Denzel Mims. I've talked about him a little bit, but he tore up. Excuse me. He tore up the combine and was a beast in Senior Bowl practices. 6'3", 207, 6'6", 3 cone. So that's, starting here back and forth, showing, change of direction, quickness. That's amazing. As you can see, easily the best time of the night. So he's referring to out of the receivers, 38.5 vertical, 10-11 broad jump, 16 on the bench with 34-inch arms. So 16 might not seem impressive, but with 34-inch arms, the amount of distance you have to cover. Usually guys with, longer arms have, harder time doing multiple reps. Doesn't mean that they're necessarily weaker. It's just harder with longer arms. So just moving out there, stocks booming. And then moving on from that, that's just some wide receiver talk, especially regarding to the Raiders. Moving on from that, we can talk about the corners and some interesting tweets. Oh, sorry, guys. I'm trying to get the comments to come in live. I'm having some difficulties. It's really irritating me. It says it. 1 second. Sorry, guys. Chat publicly. Hello. I'm trying to get it to stay up there. Because as I mentioned, I'm having a little bit of trouble on this StreamYard app that I'm using, getting the comments on time. And plus, I'm looking at my tabs, to talk to you guys. So I don't have the comment section up. I'm trying to get it on my phone. All right. Moving on. And if you guys have any comments, questions, shout them out. Like I said, I'm trying to work on the comments. I'll notice eventually, hopefully within minutes, and post them and get talking about them. So draft talk continued. Corner talk. So you can find this in Austin Gale, once again, Pro Football Focus. So top 10 corners in the 2020 NFL Draft, sorted by percentage of snaps played in primary coverage concepts over the past 2 years. So basically, what are they playing most? The top 10 regarded corners, according to Pro Football Focus. So percentage of all coverage snaps in press. So what they mean by press, I'm assuming, or I would just infer, is lining up 3 yards within the wide receiver. That doesn't mean you necessarily have to get hands on, but it's just, pre-snap, are you lining up 3 yards within to the receiver? So with the Raiders and their draft, last year of Trayvon Mullen and Isaiah Johnson, they 6 foot plus corners, 4.4 speed, 31-inch plus arms. And they've referred Mike Mack, a ton of time. They want man corners, press man corners. Over the last couple years and primarily over his career, Paul Guenther has done cover 3, which is, the free safety playing zone middle of the field, and the 2 corners are basically bailing and guarding the sideline. So I would look for players, with this, 6 foot, 31-inch arms, 4.40 guys that can line up in press to be the continued trend, and them shifting to more man-to-man press coverage. Aggressive, that's typically the Raiders' way. That's what they're known for. And as I said, Mike Mayock referred to it, and his draft picks kind of, showed that. So that's an important thing. So starting, we got Diggs from the University of Alabama. He has got 51% of his snaps lined up over the past 2 years in press. That's really good. It's something that is really encouraging, especially from a Raiders perspective. 32% in cover 1. So that means, a safety, if the free safety playing, center field and the two corners are playing man, they're playing on the island essentially. So that is encouraging, has a lot of snaps in that coverage from a Raiders perspective. Quarters, which would mean basically cover 4, so 2 safeties guarding the center middle, and then the 2 corners on the outside guarding the sidelines again, kind of. So some zone principles, 21%, and then 15 at cover 3, which is, as I mentioned before, something that Paul Guenther really prefers to run. So from a snap distribution standpoint, and then cover 0 and then 2-man is also on an island. So essentially, according to Pro Football Focus, 35, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So 40% of his snaps come with him on an island, essentially. So that's really impressive. And then, as I mentioned, 51 from press. And then the cover 3 is nice because that's what Paul Guenther traditionally likes to run. So that is a really good thing. And I'm going to blow this picture up for you guys right here. Blow that up so you guys can maybe see it a little bit better. Still pretty small. But moving on, so he's from Alabama, brothers to Stephon Diggs. I look for him to be, probably a late 1, second round pick, more likely. And he's a converted wide receiver, as I mentioned. And then Bryce Hall. So Bryce Hall 2 years ago tore it up before his injury, or his injury this past year. I got to clarify on that. But anyways, from the University of Virginia. Heavy zone guy, long, lanky, but as you see here, 17%, so the lowest of all the eligible guys. Hardly at all lined up in the press, so that's kind of a red flag there. But as I said, his arm length and size kind of profile as a press type of guy, press bail, even maybe in a cover 3 like a Richard Sherman does. So I think he can transition to it. The top 3 cornerback, Trayvon Diggs, Jeff Okudah. Okay, I like that. Damon Arnett, number 1. Okay, he's a little bit older, a late riser. Another little bit concerned. He's got great production, though, and great PBU. But a little bit of concern is he has undersized average, for like Pro Bowl elite players, average size arm length. So that doesn't mean everything, obviously. Amik Robertson, who's someone I love, Louisiana Tech, who's 5'9", has shorter arms than him, and I don't bring that up often. But that's just a little bit red flag in there. But I like the comment. There, JB. And then, I can't get the comments to stay. That's weird. But I can see them. At least they pop up now. So moving on. Oh, I'll keep going with Bryce Hall from Virginia. So besides injury concern, red flag, obviously the lack of press. But like I said, I think he, with his arm length and size, projects to do that. And then going on, 26% of his snaps in cover 3. So if the Raiders, wanted to continue playing that cover 3 heavy zone defense that Paul Guenther loves, I think Bryce Hall is a really good possibility. As I mentioned, the 17% does a little worry me, but I think he can project to it. Injury concern a little worries me, but if you want to keep running that cover 3, which I think Mullen and Isaiah Johnson can still run, I think he's someone that should definitely be considered, especially if he can get to the 3rd round because of his injury concerns. And then more zone, quarters, so 4 zone in the back, and then cover 1, so man on man, 19%. So he's got about 26% of his snaps on man. So if the Raiders want to be a heavy man team, you got to really evaluate those limited snap percentage over the past 2 years and see if he can be, as you can see, quarters, cover 6, and cover 3. He's primarily a zone guy. So if the Raiders really want to become a man team, scratch him off the list. If they're still open to playing, press zone and all that good stuff, Bryce Hall is a much easier projection in the Raiders defense in that way. Moving on, we have Cameron Dantzler. As you can see, I think he's number 1 in lining up in the press, which is really, really good to see, from a Raiders perspective. And he is long and lanky. And from Mississippi State, So, expect a guy like Jonathan Abrams to know him. But I believe 6'2", long arms, 40% in cover one, so that's just one safety in the middle of the field. So playing man on man. He played man on man basically 42% of the time over the last 2 years. And then 21, so he's got some zone. That's cover 4 in quarters. And then cover 3, 9%. So, excuse me. Whoa, I'm looking at the wrong person. Excuse me, guys. Cameron Dancer. Goodness gracious, from Mississippi State. 40% in snaps and press. You guys can read it. 28 in cover 1, 5 in cover 0. So he's got some man, some good cover 3. So, some good diversity here. So look for him. I see him, more second, third round guy. And then Christian Fulton at 19. Anywhere, between, probably, pick 14 to 23. I would expect Christian Fulton to go. 59%. So he's second highest, as you can see, in snap and press. So that's really good. A lot of man and some corners. I'm really high on him. He reminds me of Tre'Davious White. I'm going to start speeding this up a little bit. Jeff Gladney from TCU, a hitter, a little bit shorter, but really long arms, almost 32-inch arms. He has a lot of quarters coverage. As you can see, 51%. So not a whole lot of diversity here. Plays a lot of quarters. And then cover 3 and cover 6, about the same. And then he plays, over the last 2 years, about 17, 20% man, about that. So, you'd have to really analyze that. As I said, he's got those long arms, so he should be able to play press, and he's got great hip fluidity. I like him a lot. So I think he's still an option. And then A.J. Terrell, we know how Mayock loves his Clemson players. Late 1, 2 type of guy, 53% in press. A lot of experience in quarters and cover 3. A lot of diversity, 3 in the 20% over the last 2 years. So he's got, 29% in man, and then, another whatever, 40, 50% in zone. So a real diverse, even distribution player out of all of them, and 53% of in press, which is nice. And then CJ Henderson, who would be an option anywhere between 12, even if potentially at 12 for the Raiders. And then from the University of Florida, great throughout his career. Early in his career was pretty good blitzing and forcing the ball out. Not known for his hitting this past year, but that's kind of a trend in the last few years, whether it's Jalen Ramsey, Delpit ineffectiveness, just kind of later in their career with these quote unquote first round locks, early round lock draft picks. They feel like they kind of suffer a little bit in the run support game later in their career. But as you can see here, 42% in press. He's got 20% in man, and that's kind of eye-opening to me because I project him and I love his man coverage, and only 20% in man. Maybe he wasn't best utilized at Florida, as you can see. He's got a lot of experience in quarters and 14% in cover 3. So, I project him, from the pros. I think a team's going to invest a high pick on him being press man corner. So as you can see, maybe he would have had a better bulk production if he was utilized more in the man scheme at Florida. Jeff Okudah, the consensus number 1 corner, 61% of his snaps over the last 2 years in press. Woo! And then a ridiculous 47% in cover 1. So that's one safety. That's man on man. So almost 50%, 51% of his snaps come from man on man, and then 29% in cover 3. So from a dream perspective, easy projecting, college to pro, Jeff Okudah, from these stats is a dream for the Raiders. I don't think he'll be around at 12, but maybe he's around at 7, 8, and the Raiders try to move up to solidify him. He is probably the easiest projection from what the Raiders are looking for. Guy length, knows for the football, line up and press, heavy in man, and then heavy experience in cover 3, which is what the Raiders like to run most out of the zone. Jalen Johnson from the University of Utah, brought him up. Good corner, 43% of his snaps come in press, 34, so good amount of man. And then once again, a good amount of cover 3, which is nice. And Noah Ingamanagney from Auburn, a little bit smaller of a guy, 33% cover 1. So a lot of man, a lot of press, as you see. So that's just kind of interesting, as you can see from the chart. And you guys can look this up on Austin Gale's Twitter feed. He posted it. I believe it was March 30th. So you can check that feed. And then I didn't really go over this, but this is, what the cover 6 is. To just give you a visual idea, if you didn't know, it's cover 2 and cover 4, basically putting together. More on Jeff Gladney. Check this out. Jordan Reed works for the Draft Network. And, I just don't read these tweets. I watch film, and I wish I could talk to Zinni about it. I just don't know about, me watching YouTube videos and posting the footage while I'm breaking it down. But I've watched, 4 or 5 games of Jeff Gladney. I like him a lot. And as Jordan Reed, kind of agrees with me, pitbull mentality, effectiveness, and press man, as I mentioned, those long arms. And then you go back here, didn't run necessarily a whole bunch of man coverage, but obviously projects well. I think the same thing, sticking coverage, linebacker type of enthusiasm. He lays people out, so that's nice. A+ zone. As I mentioned, that quarters coverage, you see him, he's playing the boundary a lot. He will be, the outside receiver will go like a curl route, and he will bail out on him and get the outbreaking corner route multiple times. You see him just reading the quarterback's eyes, feeling the receiver behind him, and coming off and making a great play. Ball skills plus, highest point ball attacker, which is nice, he's got a good vertical and those long arms, pedal in the patient bounce. So it's not just me that I'm a fan. Jordan Reed is too. Check him out. That's Jeff Gladney, TCU. Moving on, and I would look for him to be a target, possibly, 19 wouldn't be too crazy, but I'd see maybe as a, slight trade back prospect, late 1, early 2. Obviously 19 is not necessarily the latest in round 1. Some more stats. Highest graded cornerbacks in cover 0, cover 1 concepts over the past 2 seasons. That's basically no help, true man-to-man, you're on an island. Bandy, who I'm not familiar with actually, but one of my favorite people, if you guys watching, Amik Robertson from SMU, I believe 14 career picks or 11, tons of PBUs, a hitter, 5'9". I think he'd be an awesome nickel corner, exactly what you're looking for in a nickel corner. He's one of my red star, one of my favorite players. I'll go to bat for. So that's really nice. Akuda, who's obviously up there, Terrell, Diggs, and Fulton. So this is man coverage, according to Pro Football Focus, who's done it best. The 2018 through 19. Sorry, my internet went out. What did I miss? Oh, JB. Oh, man. You missed a whole bunch. I'll come up and go back up here. So you can find this chart, JB, this breakdown chart. If you want to look at it, it's on Austin Gale, March 30th on Twitter. You can find this and you can read it yourself. But basically from this, easiest projection for the Raiders to dream would be Akuda. And then Diggs profiles nice a lot. Fulton, a Henderson, a Terrell. And then a Bryce Hall, if the Raiders are still trying to play a lot of cover 3, he projects really well potentially for them too. Only 17% in press, but with his long arms and length, I think he'd be good at it. So Austin Gale on Twitter, you can check it out. Show a little highlight what cover 6 is a little bit. Jeff Gladney, a little report. TCU hitter, like it. And then JB, I think you just hopped in when I kind of went over this. Highest graded, man, cover 0, cover 1 concepts the past 2 years. Amik Robertson, I know who JB's heard me talk about a lot. Big fan of him. Ball production, prototype nickel you're looking for. Akuda, Terrell, Diggs, Fulton. And so that's it from the Twitter highlights and stuff, guys. The last I heard was Trayvon Diggs. Oh, so you missed. Yes, you went out at the beginning. So I can go over it. I want to go over it all again because you're not the only watcher, unfortunately, JB. Actually, you are. So I guess you are the only live watcher. So we can go over it again for you, big guy. So Diggs, it's just snap percentage, what they're running. So check it out on Austin Gale. It's pretty cool. This is on Twitter. But honestly, JB, if you're down, I kind of want to move on and maybe do some draft talk. We can do some more draft simulator, I guess. Or if you have specific ranking questions or thoughts on players that I have, or Raven questions, whatever you think for me, JB. I'm all to be interactive. I know we had that hiccup that last time with the live interactive. I didn't get your comments in time, but let's talk it out and let's do it, and let's do some stuff here if you're down. But yeah, if you want to dive more into the chart, JB, because this video is going to be posted on YouTube. I don't want to go over all again. Just Austin Gale, March 30th. Check it out on his Twitter, and it's a good breakdown. So what I want to do, JB, is I want to do some draft network stuff. I guess if you're down, that's kind of what I want to do. Do some Ravens, Raiders. I know we can only do this so many times and see a whole bunch of stuff, and it's kind of repeating, but it's kind of addicting at the same time to keep doing these. So I know I keep doing these in all my videos, guys, but it's just kind of an addiction, and a whole lot of free time leading up to the draft. It's Draft Network, guys. Highly recommend it. You can do your own mock draft simulator, pick as many teams you want. Like I said, me and JB are here, so we'll do Raiders, Ravens first, and get the ball rolling. You can do predictive or just player rankings, which I do not suggest. Don't do player rankings because it's not going to be random at all. They're just going to pick the highest rated players by need as well. So like predictive, we'll do 6 rounds. You can change the speeds. We'll do normal, and then manual for the teams that you're doing, obviously. So we'll start. I like seeing these are all new, are all kind of realistic. At least the top, 8, 9 players that are selected. So as we go here, as I said, this is the Draft Network. It's dope. You guys should check it out. They have a subscription feature where it allows trades plus bonus information, bonus scouting reports and articles and stuff. I do not have the subscription. We're thinking about getting it at Zenny 62, but we're not 100%, doing that yet. So JB, looking at this draft, yeah, JB is down. I like it. JB is down for the draft mock. Here we go, JB. We're starting, as you can see, obviously. We'll go over this and just kind of see what we think. As I mentioned, post if you have any comments, JB. I will try to see them right away. Okay, so Joe Burrow, I expect that to be number 1. And now the Redskins, call me crazy. I still think they have to consider Tua if they're not sold on Haskins. They bring in Kyle Allen, who has experience with Ron Rivera. So if they, were to do that, they could trade a Haskins similar to what, Arizona did to Josh Rosen, and then, roll with Allen, especially if Tua needs a medical red shirt. But I'd say Chase Young's the odd-on favorite, and then maybe someone that they're not really expecting that I think could go number 2 would be Jeff Okudah. They don't have any corners really proven on their roster, so Okudah, would fill a huge need. Okudah would fill a huge need for possibly the Redskins too. And then at the Lions, 3, I've seen some Derek Brown, which I think would kill Lions fans a little bit, but I think he's an option. Simmons, Okudah. Obviously, trade back to the first team that wants a quarterback who wants Tua in real life. Tristan Wirfs, I love, from Iowa. Under Kirk Ferentz, who's from the NFL pedigree, worked for under Bill Belichick. NFL tried to get him to be a head coach there for years, but he loves Iowa. He's the only, and they just project linemen throughout their careers. He's the only one to start at tackle as a true freshman. High school wrestling champ, which I love. I mean, he knows leverage and hand usage. Tua to the Bengals makes sense. Justin Herbert, to the Chargers makes sense. Derek Brown to the Carolina. They need all kinds of stuff on defense. Isaiah Simmons to the Cardinals, I like a lot. I expect them to go lineman, but getting a centerpiece on defense is pretty sweet. CJ Henderson, I see this a ton, so that's realistic. Mekhi Becton and Andrew Thomas. All right, so pretty realistic here. Why do you sort of have that problem? Why do you sort of have a problem with the 2019 quarterbacks? You think I have a problem with the 2019 quarterbacks? I don't think I do. I'm really high on Joe Burrow. pure single season. He had a lot of talent around him, but pure, in a vacuum single season, the best of all time. Great in the pocket, underrated, really underrated athleticism, but can, keep his eyes downfield while moving in the pocket. So I'm a big fan of Joe Burrow. And then Tua, all that talent around him, so that could be looked as a negative. I think the big thing with Tua is his injury concern, JB. I think that's the big concern for me. And then I am not a big Justin Herbert guy. All the talent in the world, but just too hit and miss for me. No, I'm talking about last draft's quarterbacks. Okay. Because you're referring to Daniel Jones too, probably, and then Haskins. Well, JB, honestly, what it really comes down to is all the rumors we hear about Haskins is Gruden didn't want him. That's Jay Gruden, who got fired. The GM didn't want him. It was the owner. And then obviously when you get a new coaching staff that comes in, we see it all the time. Just last year we saw it with Rosen being moved on after 1 year. A top 12 draft pick, if I'm not mistaken, number 10. I think he went to the Arizona Cardinals. You have your reign if you don't love him. And let's be honest, last year, Dwayne Haskins was evaluated by Carolina Panthers, and they passed on him. And I would say Cam Newton, it was a little red flaggy. They obviously took Will Greer, and they had Allen. So quarterback, they weren't totally invested in Cam. They're obviously concerned. So if they were super high, if Ron Rivera was super high on one Dwayne Haskins, I would have argued that they probably would have taken him in Carolina. So, when new coaches are in there, new regimes, they have freedom, and we've seen it in recent. And I'm sorry, Tua Tagovailoa is a far superior college football player than Dwayne Haskins was. So that's just me. And then Daniel Jones, I don't think I'm actually real. I think the New York Giants should keep Daniel Jones. The only people I would replace Daniel Jones with, and I'm sure you're referring to the mock draft simulator with a couple of us, Joseph, me, Vinny, and Zenny, that we did. I took one Joe Burrow to the Giants because it's what I would do. There's no way Joe Burrow is going to be around for the Giants. But if you're telling me Joe Burrow or Tua is around for the Giants now, I'm running the team, I'm taking those two players. I am. I think they're significantly better prospects than one Daniel Jones. However, in real life, I do not expect the Giants to take a high quarterback. Like if Tua and Joe Burrow are gone, I'm not taking Herbert. I'm not taking Love to replace Daniel Jones. I hope that clarifies for you, JB. But yeah, so let's get to it. So evaluating this draft here, I'm going to change it up. I think it's really likely they go receivers at 12, but I think, corner is a huge need. I've heard the report. I think Matt Miller reported that look for them to draft an interior player in the first round, and that'd be Kinlaw. But Vic Tafur reported the Raiders aren't really high on him. Obviously, that could be a smokescreen. I think Kinlaw fits exactly kind of what the Raiders would be looking for. So that's just kind of surprising to me. He was dominant at the SEC. He doesn't have a whole lot of moves, but was dominant in the SEC. It reminds me a lot of the Chris Jones. We were rumored to be heavily involved, wanting him to hit the market to get him potentially to Vegas. So I think that's hopefully more of a red flag. So me personally, I would consider Kinlaw at 12 and at 19. As I said, Vic Tafur said the Raiders aren't very high on him. But Matt Miller reported interior defender, and then all the receivers. So I'm going to change it up this time. Oh, no, I can't. I was going to say change it up and go C.J. Henderson, but he's gone. I'm not taking Fulton. I'm not going to take offensive lineman, which honestly, I don't think is the craziest thing, with how Gabe Jackson's been hurt the last few years, getting top 5 money. Incognito's old. Wills could play inside potentially. And then Colt Miller is not 100% proven yet. And then Trent Brown's making $21 million, and he missed so many games last year. So if that happens again, basically there could be a couple open positions coming soon. So I don't think that's too crazy. I don't want to do that. So I'm going to build my team like you know what? No, I'm going Jerry Jeudy. I was going to go Henry Ruggs, for the pure speed and try to build a basketball team out there and either get a possession guy or route runner in the third because, that speed's so rare. But you know what? I'm going with Jerry Jeudy. He's been so productive over 3 years. Excellent route runner. You can just watch him breaking guys down. Even last year against Trayvon Mullen, who I love, a Raider, he destroyed him in a route that's been kind of going around on Twitter. So let's go Jerry Jeudy here for the Raiders at 12. You guys chime in with your comments or whatnot. Keep it going, and I'll see him eventually. We got a couple people watching apparently. I think me, JB, and then maybe one other. All right, so the Raiders are back on the clock. Now, in real life, I expect the Raiders to try to trade back at one of these spots. Not, obviously if someone falls that they don't expect or their dream player is there, that they'll stay at both spots. But I look for them to try to get, more picks in this. They don't have a pick in the second, so they're going to want to pick in the second. In my opinion, Mac's going to want that diversity. So as we're here, Gladney went to here. I'm a big Christian Fulton believer. Maybe double dipping receiver. I haven't done that. Big Grant Delpit guy. I think he fits tremendously what the Raiders want from their free safety. Obviously, the injury concern hurts me. The tackling, missed tackles, so maybe that injured clavicle is still bothering him. And then Zach Bond, who I haven't really talked about a whole lot. I think he'd be a really, really good strong side linebacker, which is exactly what the Raiders need in that third linebacker. Ideally, you would have, Kwiatkowski playing Mike, and then Littleton at weak, and then Zach Bond at strong would be nice. I think he profiles really good. Also for the Ravens, JB, Zach Bond, I don't know if you've seen much of him, but a bit of a do-it-all player at linebacker producing Wisconsin. I think you maybe had a critical point about Wisconsin producing busts, but I would argue they produce great offensive linemen and great linebackers. So Zach Bond maybe, but for me personally here on the Raiders, I'm trying to solve the two biggest needs. I'm a big believer in Christian Fulton. Reminds me a lot of Tre'Davious White. So give me Fulton here. And then if we got more people in the chat, you want on the next mock, just make a comment of what team you want, guys, and I'll get you in on the next mock team, and you can help me. We can sort through it. So JB, you are on the clock with your Baltimore Ravens. I'll blow it up for you, big guy. Let's see. What are you thinking, JB? I know Swifty's out here. You always go him. If I had a suggestion for you, maybe change it up and don't go running back at 28. Maybe change it up for you. Maybe go linebacker with the Kenneth Murray, who I think would be great inside linebacker for you if you want more, speed and pass coverage ability. A Queen would be nice. I think Espinoza. I know you have a ton of defensive line depth, but Espinoza kind of fits good for you guys. Versatile, heavy hands. You go gadget player. Laviska Shenault would be awesome in that Baltimore offense. That'd be kind of cool. You also go interior lineman, protect the franchise, Lamar. More receivers, go safety. I love Jeremy Chin. God, I love him. I wish the Raiders could somehow get him. I think it's a little too rich where they're at now, and he won't be around in the third. So what are you thinking, JB? Let's see if you've said something. JB, I'm waiting for you here. See if I can get a comment from you. You said something. Swift or Taylor? You want to stick with running back? I say change it up, JB. Change it up. You always go running back, guy. I think if you wait on running back, you'd be surprised with one of your next picks. You'll get one of those guys that you want. So how about one of the linebackers or offensive lineman, JB? Where you at? I know you said Swift. I know you said Taylor. Laviska Shenault. I like it. Yeah, dude. Laviska, I think could really be, like I said, injury concern, but in that creative offense you guys run, that kind of gadgety, he is a big play waiting to happen, like a running back playing receiver. I like that pick a lot, actually. I think he's a perfect fit for you in Baltimore. And like I said, I totally understand you wanting to go to the running backs, JB. I'm just trying to mix it in a little bit. And, let's see if we can get one of those running backs that you love to fall into your next, area. All right, guys, so we're just doing a Draft Network mock draft. Feel free to post a comment of your team you want to represent next, and we'll get you on the next mock draft here. JB's representing the Ravens. So JB, you are back on the clock. Pick 55. Okay, so maybe not your dream running backs, your Swift or your what's his face here, but Clyde still here, which would be awesome. He reminds me a lot of a Mark Ingram, but even better in the passing game. I think he would be a great fit for you. Cam Akers played against an abysmal offensive line at Florida State and just shut his mouth and produced, killed the combine. I love Cam Akers. That'd be a great pick for you. But I would say out of like the true elite backs, those are the last two. I'm a big fan of Zach Moss, but I think that's too early for him. So if you want to go running back here, I'd go Clyde or Akers. What are you thinking here, JB? I can pull up another position for you, but I know you want a running back, so that's the running back position. We can see what linebackers are here. Malik Harrison, I would probably go running back over that. So what running back you thinking, JB? I don't want to pigeonhole you, but if you're okay with that, what running back are you thinking? Zach Moss you want? Okay, I think that's, like I said, maybe a little early, but I respect it. And, he reminds me a lot, and I mean a lot of one Kareem Hunt without the off-field issues. And I believe his brother is Santana Moss, if I'm not mistaken, at least his cousin. So knows what the NFL game is about. Yeah, we'll go Moss here for you. I'll let you do that. So he's a little bit down here, but like I said, I think he reminds me of a Kareem Hunt. So I like that pick a lot, and stick to, what you like. So you're back on the clock, JB. Pick 60. What are you thinking here now? Let's put your last pick here. You went Zach Moss. What are you thinking here, JB? Guys that are watching the stream, post what team you want to represent. You have any side comments, questions, I'll get to it, but post the team you want to represent. JB here. You're back on the clock. You don't need another running back. That's for sure. Austin Jackson, I think he won't be here in real life. That'd be a great pick. A tackle. It's not the highest of your needs. Go to the O-line, okay? I like it. So Austin Jackson, great human being, did a bone marrow transfer for his sick sister. Niang is a monster, 6'7", 330 from TCU. Those are guys that, have outside versatility. Isaiah Wilson is a monster as well, 6'7", 340. But if you're looking for a pure interior guy, let's go to that for you. Lewis from the national champions, a real good player. And Mutai is a real power guy, a pancake machine. Nick Harris is a zone, more of a center, undersized. Tyler Baidez, all they do at Wisconsin is produce big guys. Lemieux's underrated. We need a guard. Okay, so we can do all these guys. John Simpson, I would have had ranked. So JB, do you want one of these interior guys? A Lewis or a Mutai would probably be my two top picks. And then, like I said, you could also go, I know that it says offensive tackle, but, offensive tackle is more valuable and they're rated a lot higher. It's not impossible for an offensive tackle to play guard. You see monster guards all the time. Tackles can play a guard. So if I was you, I would just, take the tackle, and then I take one of these two tackles and project them. Niang. Okay. Lucas Niang, 6'7", 328 pounds. Big road grader. So JB has the thought of kicking him inside early, being a power run blocker, getting the line moving, and then adding that flexibility, playing offensive tackle, if one of their starters goes down. I like that pick. I like that, JB Niang. I like it. Try to get going. I'm gonna power through these so we can do. I guess if no one else wants to do it, we can take our time, right, JB? Take our time unless people are in a hurry. All right, so the Raiders, I know they're definitely looking. The rumor is for an interior defensive lineman. So I haven't watched a lot of Hamilton. I'm not gonna lie, he'd be an option. Hurts, I think they'd take him if he lasted this long potential. I don't think he will, so I kind of want to stay from that. Linebacker, I like Brooks. I like Willie Gay. I like Gaither. Holmes. We go Claypool. I'm going with my guy here. I'm going with a big, big physical receiver that I'm really high on. He's been injured off and on. Give me Edwards. I think he would have been a first round lock if he didn't, get hurt in the pre-draft process. And I'm trying to, get dominant, at receiver. So I go linebacker here, corner, interior defensive lineman. I think I'm going to go interior defensive lineman here. I know that's a need. I'm going to look him up on my own here, watch some tape. I actually don't really know much about him at all. Obviously, great program. 6'4", 230, so monster. I'm going to watch some of him. So I'm going to go with that. Change it up for the Raiders. So really addressing needs, but also getting players that I believe would be great value picks where they're taking based off of rankings more, referring to the last pick. All right, so right in front of you, JB, I'm on the clock here, so that's kind of interesting. I kind of like that here. That's kind of interesting. So I kind of want to go. I could go interior offensive line would be nice. God, I'd love my boy Amik Robertson. He's one of my favorites, so I kind of want to go him. And then you really have a real nice corner room and proven slot guy. Obviously, corners are on the field. 3 corners are more on the field than 3 linebackers. I love Davis Gaither, so he's someone I'm attracted to. But, I'm going to stick to my guns here, and I just think he's going to be one of the best nickel corners in the league in a few years, going Robertson. So double dipping for the Raiders at receiver and corner, and really just trying to be ready for the next 3 years at those positions on the outside, respectively on offense and defense. All right, JB, you're back on the clock. Pick 92 out here. What are you thinking for your Baltimore Ravens? For all you guys watching, we got a couple people now watching on the stream. This is what JB has done. Me and JB, Raiders, Ravens, respectively. I went Judy, Fulton. He went with the gadget, ultimate touchdown maker, mismatch piece, Chenault. Then Zach Moss, who reminds me of Kareem Hunt. And then he goes Niang, who's going to play at guard, the monster, play outside too. And then I went with the Raiders, big receiver for the outside, the defensive lineman, and then sure up that nickel corner position with the young Mick Robertson. So try to solidify wide receiver and corner for the Raiders. All right, JB, what are you thinking? Waiting for you. We got 6 people watching. That's awesome. You guys have comments or next draft you guys want to represent in team, we'll go through it, post in the comments on YouTube during the live chat right now, and I'll get it on the next. JB, are you there, big guy? What are you thinking? So let's just see some of your needs. So we already kind of got into your offensive linemen. I just want to count King Davis Gaither, dude. He played in the 3-4. It's really diverse. I think he'd be a great pick for you guys right here from a smaller school, but check out his highlights. JB, I think that'd be a great pick for you guys. Who else? You can get another tight end. You just traded what's his face? I can't remember. God, it's going to kill me. I'm trying to think of names. You just traded Hayden Hurst. So, JB, what are you thinking? Evan Weaver, Zenny's big guy, the tackling machine from Cal. JB, what are you thinking? Let me make sure you didn't say something. D-line, Derek Wolf will not last. Okay, D-line. I like Derek Wolf, though. He's he's not a sack artist, but he's pretty good player, JB. I think you might be sleeping on him a little bit. Okay, so you want linemen. Let's say we go with the highest rated, and let's go with some straight explosiveness out there. Let's go with the pass rusher. Where is he? Edge from Tennessee, Darrell Taylor, from the SEC, 6'4", 260, highly touted recruit. I like that, JB. Let's go with that out there. Let's go, Darrell Taylor. I'm gonna hit that for you. All right, moving along. Yes, Darrell Taylor. All right, I like that. I'm glad I could please you and we could get it out. So first you hit him with the D-line. D-line, Derek Wolf, not going to last. We might not agree there, but I respect your opinion, JB. And then you went with Darrell. I like it. So you're back on the clock. Back on the clock here, JB. What are you thinking? What are you thinking here? Go to the screen here. What are you thinking? Based off of needs, still need that linebacker. Logan Wilson is a machine from the University of Wyoming. Can do it all. Pro Football Focus, advanced stats have him ranked great. I think he'd be a good pick for you guys right now. If you want a matchup piece, nickel, safety type of guy, Kayvon Wallace has a lot of good experience. Some more pass rushers. Like I said, he could replace that tight end, that backup number 2 tight end for you guys. Just got rid of Hayden Hurst. Evan Weaver's out there. He'd be an inside linebacker for you guys. Have some more fun with a guy similar to a Shanola Linboden. Go to safeties. Okay, let's do it. Kayvon Wallace, University of Clemson. He played more of their deep safety role, nickel. Brandon Jones is a superior athlete, but more of an in-the-box run and chase player. University of Texas. Geno Stone, real high IQ, but maybe a limited athleticism, but really just knows where to be, what to do. J.R. Reed in the block safety. Justin Blackman, a former corner, so he projects more of a coverage guy. JB. Tanner Muse, the in the block safety for Clemson, ran 4.4. Brooks, a former team captain. The Raiders had a visit with him, I think, lined up. Kayvon Wallace, let's do it. All right, Kayvon Wallace, so the diverse safety. Clemson, I like it. We went Kayvon for him. Guys, watching the live stream, appreciate you guys being here. Don't feel free to be interactive in the comments. Shoot a prediction or a question or a request to represent a team on the next one. We're only going to do one more mock after this, so get on what teams you want. All right, so we're back on the clock for the Raiders. Ooh, and immediately Justin Blackman jumps off to me. Non-contact injury in the Pac-12 championship, but size, former corner, so could project for some ball skills that would knock the next highest need. That intrigues me. I definitely could go interior offensive line. If Ben Barch is still here, he is not. That would have been nice. Let's check interior. Shane, I'm really high on John Simpson, but I'm going to trust the board here, and I could go linebacker. Oh, I'm really high. I'm not so high on Evan Weaver. I think, he's a great first and second down player, potentially smart, but, limited athletically. I love Joe Bocci, suspended for, I believe, a failed drug test, but I love his tape. So I am thinking safety, though. I'm going to go with the high upside potential cover guy. I'm going to go Justin Blackman here. Moving along here. Who's going to be up next? Probably JB. Yep, JB going to be back on the clock. Pick 130. Oh, pick 129. I skipped one. Pick 129, JB. The Ravens are just stockpiled picks. They're going to get way better and maybe even get aggressive to target certain players. So interior offensive line, don't really, I think that's kind of been picked, but you could take another guy because offensive tackle was need. Tight end. Linebacker still in need. JB, if Joe Bocci's there, if you want an inside linebacker, he'd be nice. If you want a tackling machine, maybe Evan Weaver. You want wide receiver, JB? Okay, let's go to wide receiver. Lynn Bowden, I've told you about him before. He played some quarterback at Kentucky, ultimate team player. That's kind of imaginative you could do with him, kind of similar to like a Shenault, and Lamar Jackson. Good luck. Colin Johnson, 6'6", underrated route runner from Texas. Tyler Johnson, who I think is going to be a steal when he goes in the middle rounds. There he is, Tyler Johnson. So you agree with me? I love it. You got a great diamond release on that fade slant combo in the red zone. I love the pick there, Tyler Johnson. So if the Raiders went for like a Ruggs, as I mentioned before, at 12, I would love Tyler Johnson to be like one of those compliments as that possession route runner type, him of Van Jefferson. I would love it. All right, so you're back on, JB. What are you thinking? I think there's some good linebackers out there, some good value at linebackers, some good value at guards if you do want a true guard. Got to protect the franchise. I know we already took an offensive tackle guard combo. Batchy, if you're looking for more run and chase player, more athleticism, Evan Weaver, tackling machine, but limited athletically. Wow, so many picks. Yes, you have so many picks, JB. That's what I'm saying. You guys are loaded. You guys are going to be either add so many valuable players or just, be aggressive to trade up in certain spots to get the players you want. So, JB, I'd probably go tight end. This guy had the fastest 40 at the combine. I forget what it was. Evan Weaver for Zenny. I like it. I like it. Evan Weaver for Zenny. I like it. So you got yourself an inside linebacker, team catch and tackling machine. Respect that a lot. I like that pick. JB, I like that. Do. All right, coming up on the Raiders final. Oh, no. Ravens first, JB. You're back on the clock. If you want a guy, interesting story, this guy, Davion Taylor, 6'1", 224, so weak side linebacker. He wasn't able to play high school football. He practiced the team, but wasn't able to play due to religious reasons. So still a real young player. I know he just took a linebacker, but he'd be the exact opposite of an Evan Weaver, so that'd be kind of cool pairing. Tight end. All right, we'll go tight end here. Harrison Bryant, underrated kind of split out end. Colby Parkinson obviously has a lot of experience in run blocking, 6'7", red zone target. And then Degarua, 245, so probably more of that receiving threat. I've seen some stuff on him. I haven't actually watched him, but I know some people are pretty excited about him. Parkinson from Stanford. Okay, I like it. I like that. Had the big red zone target. I can dig it. Oh, AJ Dillon just went at pick 158, folks. I was going to take him at 159. Oh, I'm hurt. Oh, no. I'm hurt. I got robbed by the New York Football Jets. Oh, no. Oh, no. I'm kind of upset right now. I'm not going to lie. All right. Well, I could take do like Evans a lot. Could wait on that, though. What about interior offensive line? If my boy nope, he's gone. Simpson's gone. Ooh, what about Keith Ishmael from San Diego State? I got it. I know he's rated super low. I don't care. Give me my guy from my alma mater. I think he projects maybe more as a center. Yeah, actually, he does. But hell, you can put on 10, 15 pounds easy. I can't trust the board. I know a lot of people are high on Durant. He's obviously a lot bigger. I'm going to go JB, feel free to time in if you want to have an idea for my Raiders. Definitely don't need a tight end. Running back, the need. Could go linebacker. I could take a guy like Tanner Muse and move him more into a linebacker. Keep that. I'm going to change it out. I'm going to go Tanner Muse and project him to a weak side linebacker. And JB, I think you're coming up again. Come up again, if I'm not mistaken. I might be. So you went Colby. Respect. Got a couple more people watching live. Feel free in the chat. If you guys tell me you guys want to do a team, represent a team in the next mock, you do it now before this one ends. And I'll do another one. If not, I might just end it here because me and JB have done this a whole lot. Unless JB, you say you really want to do another one, I'm wanting to stay. But, been live now for an hour and a half. So just kind of looking for a little more interaction to keep going. Let me know. And I think we are going to be done. Okay, wow. So this is me and JB. I try to change it up from the perspective of the Raiders a little bit. And then JB and me kind of picked out for the Ravens. So if you guys watching, we'll kind of go through. I have the choice of all three receivers on the board at 12. I was thinking about Ruggs, but I'm going Judy. Just stick to the most productive wide receiver in the draft class, the best route runner. Jerry Jeudy, I went there. And I went another need, Christian Fulton. So he'll be my starting boundary corner opposite of Trayvon Mullen. And then up here, my boy JB was thinking running back. He's been thinking running back heavy a lot consistently, either Swift or Taylor at 28. I kind of made him switch it up, thinking that maybe one of them would fall to pick 55, which didn't happen. So I feel kind of bad, but this is only a sample and whatnot. So he went with Laviska Shenault. I think is a dream pairing, gadget, beast after the catch, running back, receiver player for the Ravens. I love that pick. He went with Zach Moss, who profiles a lot to Kareem Hunt. I like him. And then Lucas Niang with the thought of offensive tackle / guard early. Your number one, sub-in player, if not starting guard. Next up for the Raiders, I had a couple choices. I had Chase Claypool available and Edwards from South Carolina, then a Van Jefferson, maybe double dip and superior route runners. If I had went with a Ruggs or a Lamb at 12, I would have gone Van Jefferson here at pick 80, but instead I went with a route runner early on. So give me the physical boundary type of receiver proven with Edwards. And then kind of just trusted the board rankings here. I don't really know as much about Hamilton, but a monster. One of the other big needs for the Raiders, so I'm just really attacking needs heavy here. And then here I probably could have gone either linebacker. There was a few available that were really good, or something else. But I went with a Mick Robertson. He's one of my favorite Red Star players. I think he profiles awesome today's nickel corner. Great ball production, excellent hitter, quick feet. I just love him. So I went with him. And then my thinking there was, okay, Raiders, you have your two starting boundary corners. One's a rookie, one's going to be in their second year. And then you have your future, if not your immediate starting nickel. So corner is basically solved for the next, 5 to 6 years, you'd like to hope. And then last year you also had Isaiah Johnson, who profiles as another long, lanky press outside corner, and then Keyshawn Nixon. So really young corner room, but you should be set. So that was my thinking there. JB went with Darrell Taylor, the explosive edge rusher out of Tennessee. Then he went with the kind of a little bit of a chess piece, deep safety underneath zone, slot corner, Kayvon Wallace. I like that. And then next up for the Raiders, I took another need. I took just Julian Blackman, who's coming off a non-contact injury in the Pac-12 championship. I went with him, thinking, former corner, could be a good, nice coverage, free safety, profiles nice, potentially ball skills player in that secondary for the Raiders. And then another great pick by JB, Tyler Johnson, the nice possession route runner from the University of Minnesota. Then for Zenny, he went with the inside linebacker, Evan Weaver, and with the red zone target, pretty good run blocker, Coley Parkinson from Stanford. And then to wrap it up, I went with Tanner Muse to profile as a weak side linebacker, special teams, valuable player for the Raiders to round it out. So really happy if I was a Raiders fan and this draft happened, and I'd be really happy if this draft happened if I was a Ravens fan. So yeah, good stuff, JB. I really liked it. If you guys have any questions right now, get into it. If not, I'm thinking about probably wrapping it up. This live stream. It's been awesome. You guys, I'll give you guys another minute. You guys have any questions, draft questions, predictions, anything, let me know. We got a couple live viewers, so I'm just gonna give you a minute. But if I don't see a comment here, I'm gonna wrap it up. But yeah, if you guys that maybe just joined in recently, once this live stream is done, I talked early about the addition of Randall to the Raiders secondary, what that means maybe to the draft. Maybe it had a major impact, maybe it didn't. You have to chime in and replay the episode. And then I talked about wide receivers and corners, kind of highlighted my Twitter feed of some thoughts. All right, guys. Well, I think I'm taking off later, JB. It's been awesome. And I'll be on a broadcast, I'm sure, live stream here shortly in the next couple days. Late. Peace. Stay safe, people. Bye.